All right, more from R.A.Schwaller de Lubicz, the master hermeticist, and probably the most amazing Egyptologist of our time. I'm going to read a very short page or two from his magnum opus called The Temple of Man. This is just chapter 2, part of chapter 2. It's called Symbolique, and it's really just diving deeply into what is a symbol. What does it mean and how does it work in our human mind, in our human psyche? So this is called Symbolique, the magical character of the symbol. Nothing is more difficult for human intelligence to access than natural simplicity. The everyday phenomenon is overlooked because of its banality and is made unintelligible to the complexities of thought. This is why initiation in no way corresponds to the image we have of it. And once the moment of initiation into natural mysteries is over, the imagination immediately comes in to weave fancy around fact. The fact being sacred, we would like its sacred character to be wrapped in and adorning literature. We cannot conceive of it in its simple and natural measure. We place it on a pedestal in order to exalt it, wishing to present it to the human imagination in its most precious aspect, that is, as a rare thing that pleases the senses. And around the empty hub we build the golden wheel. Those who are the guardians of knowledge and know it to be incommunicable are the first to gild the outer court that leads to the inaccessible sanctuary. It is to guard, it is to hide, it is to teach. To guard is to preserve the treasure. To hide it is to control it. To teach is to open the way to the successors of the guardian caste. And it is also to select in order to find the one who perchance will rediscover the lost word. Okay, just going to pause real quick. This is a very ancient symbol, the wheel. And he says, around the empty hub, we build the golden wheel. And he's going to go deeper into what this symbol means, what a wheel is. What are its components? How did the symbol of a wheel come to mean what it means? And how many layers are there in its meaning? At least the meaning that he's referring to here. Notice he called it the golden wheel, meaning the highest wheel, the most all-encompassing wheel, the most powerful wheel, the wheel of all wheels. Okay. Such is the historical drama of all the priesthoods, of all the clergy, of all the initiatory religions. Simple doctrine rapidly becomes complicated. Analysis multiplies the imaginary. This false symbolism that conceals under the pretext of teaching. Well, we all know what he's saying there. The priest class, the priesthoods, the cabals, the vicars, the people that intermediate between this world and the spirit world, or this world and God. They can fall so easily into corruption because they are afforded a bit of power. And it's very hard to wield power while remaining humble or while walking with humility. And we see this in just about every organized religion on the planet. It doesn't mean that you should throw out religious morality or religious concepts or religious doctrines or religious ideas, but it might mean that you should question those who claim that they actually know it and actually live it and walk it, and ask them, find out, are they really walking it? Are they really living it? Is it really in their hearts, or are they just abusing its power? Continuing on. The most incomprehensible aspect of human nature is its search for the true understanding of natural things through substitutes. Why does man resort to symbolism? Is it possible for him not to? Is it possible for him not to want it? Symbolism both conceals and teaches, and the more complicated the teaching becomes, the more it conceals and removes one from knowledge. The effect runs contrary to its own purpose. Interesting. So you have to be aware when you see a symbol of trying to discern its origin, its true meaning. It's not its man-made meaning, but its inspiration in nature, because all of our symbols, all of our language comes out of nature. Yet whatever artifice is used to carry the symbolism, in some way or another it remains related to truth. Literary complexity alone does not reveal this connection, for it is guided by a real link that compels recognition. Any symbol belonging to or represented by a myth can be chosen to illustrate this fact. Whether it be Wotan's staff, the wings outspread around Ra's solar disk, Berth au Grand Priade, or Master Jacques, the cross, the falcon of Horus, each speaks clearly through its functional expression. Every symbol, even one beyond interpretation, is in itself directly related to the thing that it expresses, that is, that it represents, perhaps, but certainly through that which it evokes. Thus, wings can be nothing other than what evokes the flying act. That which flies can be nothing other than what rises and escapes the earth. This can be nothing other than the volatile principle, one of the principles of the original separation. Okay, pausing there real quick. He's talking about the symbol of wings. We see wings everywhere, on Nikes, on hats, of course on airplanes, or on the solar disk, or all these different gods, angels, have wings. But what does the wing really mean in its origin? We often don't think about it, but it means anti-gravity. It means going back to spirit. It means being unbound by the material earth and moving into spirit, because angels and gods can fly between the material world and the spirit world. In this way, we finally see that there are several simple principles that, like archangels, preside over everything, shining forth with innumerable rays throughout the world. Each archangel is, in that, one of those sons of primordial nature. It becomes impossible to imagine anything that does not come under their dominion, and the evocation of anything, image, word, or gesture, is at the same time the evocation of the principle and its momentary fixation, which at that instant is quite real. The symbol is thus the expression of a will. It is magic. Every circle, as a circular movement, has a center. This center controls this continuous and regular curve, which is closed. It is attractive. Just as the circumference is repellent or centrifugal, this Euler curve, which is closed, it is attractive, just as the circumference is repellent or centrifugal. This center is an abstract power that rules the phenomenon of elliptical or assimilated movement if curve is closed. If the curve is not closed, but is superimposed, the center becomes a line or a figure, horizontal for a spiral, vertical for a helicoidal curve, and so on. Okay, hopefully you can envision what he's talking about. He's talking about the nature of a circle or a sphere and how it relates to its center and how it actually manages to be a sphere, be a circle, how it holds its form with centrifugal and centrifugal dual opposing forces, or also known as vortex mathematics. Very similar to Walter Russell. And that's why when I read de Lubicz and Walter Russell, I think they're both Hermeticists, even if Russell never called himself that. His thinking is definitely Hermetic, or at least holistic. The center controls. It is the will of the figure. 3 axes of equal length intersecting at 90 degrees are the will of the cube. The form of the movement and the form of the Euclidean volume are in the center and its extension. I say the will of a rotating sphere is the magical axis, and its equator is the centrifugal electrical effect. Moreover, any magnetic effect is a contracting will that by reaction calls for the dilating equatorial electrical effect. Conversely, every circular electric current provokes the magnetic axial effect. Will is esoteric. Effect is exoteric. Okay. Schwaller de Lubicz is just so profound. When you read his work, you have to read it more than once because he really commands, he's really powerful with language. He really has a strong command over the English language. But just in that paragraph alone, he's really talking about this esoteric quality of will, and then what will does, or what will makes, or affects. And he says that effect is exoteric. So the will is esoteric, meaning the essence of from within. And the effect of the will is exoteric, which is what we can see manifest in the world. Also, he's talking about the combination of magnetic and electric forces, just like Walter Russell, showing that you'll never have a magnetic field without an electric current running through it. You'll never have an electric current without a magnetic field around it. They essentially, they are different things, right? But essentially they're one. It's like male and female. It's like up and down. They're one. Different aspects or different perspectives of the same thing. But where then is the will of the container of the volume? Its will is the seed, that is, the specification of the contents, hence a genesis. That is, time for time is none other than Genesis. Genesis appears to us as time. Okay, I got to stop again. He's saying that since will is internal, it's esoteric. It's actually a seed. It's what causes things or gives birth to things. And so he calls it a genesis, the gene of Isis. The genesis, meaning not only to begin, but to begin and then become, or to begin and then becoming. So Genesis is this motion. It's a creation or a creative act. And so anything in motion can only be witnessed. Motion can only be witnessed through time. So he's saying that Genesis appears to us as time. So anytime we see or feel the movement or progression of time, we're actually in a process of growth or change or transformation. And that process actually is Genesis. It's something that happened from a seed. Now, all will of movement and of form is a specification of energy. Will is thus identified with the seed as the specifier and as Genesis, appears as time or duration. The seed ordains the volume, that is, space. The genesis of this space ordains time. Will is what Lao Tzu called the empty hub of the wheel. The absolute will of the origin includes all specifications. Everything that is naturally specified is a symbol and the expression of a will, hence, of a specifying seed of a non-objectifiable energy, the container of non-polarized spirit substance. The specifying will, the fire, of the seed was called the odor by the ancient Egyptians, the odor of the netter, that is, in an esoteric sense, that which emanated by the netter, like the fire of the ejected seed. And just if you don't know the word netter, it's a cosmic principle of nature that is personified as a god or a deity. They're basically like the gods, the netters. The contained will must always be sought in the symbol, when the symbol is chosen for an esoteric teaching. The character of this will is that which will always compel spirit, non-polarized energy. So here he defines spirit, non-polarized energy, which to me means if it's non-polarized, it's everywhere, always at once, meaning uncontained. It's not in form. It's not in a body. At least that's the way I'm reading that. I'll repeat that. The character of this will is that which will always compel spirit, non-polarized energy, to define itself in time and space, hence, in the form of the symbol. This is the magical meaning of the symbol. With regard to spirit, the magic operates as the Platonic idea, just as the rhythm acts on our will of movement. We obey it in spite of and against everything, even when we do not give in. Okay, that's it. It's just one page. But as you can tell, it's very deep and profound writing, stuff you have to think about and meditate upon. But when I read this, it really, really just stuck out and made me want to share it. Because we have so many symbols in our daily environment, yet we take them for granted, and we also think we know what they mean often. And we start to realize that they have multiple meanings and multiple layers of meaning, depending on how you use them or how you see them or what context they're in. And more importantly, most symbols that we see and use, we actually don't even use correctly. We don't even realize or remember what their real esoteric meaning originally was. And thus we are speaking a language of untruth or half-truths. And we lead ourselves astray when we use symbols unconscientiously. And so that's why I wanted to share this, the magical essence of the symbol. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you've never read R.A.Schwaller de Lubicz, you probably should.